We'll do it live. We'll do it live. Good morning, Vietnam. We are feeling optimistic today. We're feeling good. We're feeling good. Now, wow. Trump is the president-elect. And what isn't that a relief? Isn't that a relief? Woo! Dodged another bullet that time. Dodged another bullet. Good morning. So, Trump's going to be the president again. This is good. This is good. What are we going to do? Trump's going to be the president. What should we be doing? What should we be focusing on? It's almost like a lot of our problems are just going to disappear suddenly, which is good. But not all of them. Some of them we're gonna have to continue to fight. But we can win. We can win these battles. And let's just talk about what is the landscape that Trump's walking into. Number one, World War III, right? We're literally in World War III, even though we over here in the United States aren't heavily impacted by the death and destruction. There, you can tell there's clearly a line, like a front, and that front runs through the Middle East, right there at Israel, Palestine, through Lebanon, and then it skips over Turkey. Well, actually, no, it kind of goes through there, and it kind of goes over. I guess that's the front. You could call the front from the territory of Russia's border, which is called Ukraine. Ukraine means the border. So through Ukraine, which is the border, Ukraine used to be all from Poland down into the Black Sea. That's the border. So you look at Ukraine, that's that's like where the front is, and then you've got the front in Israel, Palestine. I don't know why we call it Israel if they're not Christians, though. That doesn't even make sense. They should call it something else. Judah. Call it Judah. That really doesn't even make sense either. I don't know what we call it. Call it Yiddishistan. Yiddishistan. That'd be another name for it. Yiddishistan. Anyway, so you got Yiddishistan and you've got Ukraine. So that's kind of the front of the West pushing towards the east, and the resistance of Iran in Israel, and the resistance of Moscow there in Ukraine. And so what's the answer to all that, though? I think Elon Musk has the best answer. And I think the best answer is to colonize space. Imagine the U.S. spent, let's say, I don't know how many trillions. Are we at 30 trillion now? Whatever the number is, right? Imagine instead of spending 30 trillion on whatever we bought for the last, I don't know, what do we get? What did we get for 30 trillion over the last 20 years? Anything? Can you think of anything that we actually got? What if we would have spent that 30 trillion on space colonization? Well, if you colonize space, you're like, well, that's just a big waste of money because you can't even live on some of these planets and blah, 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 blah. Well, you might not be able to live on them, but you can certainly extract resources out of them that you can use to live. So imagine you spend 30 trillion on space exploration and you're colonizing space, and now you have all these resources which are worth way more than 30 trillion in actual value. And if you can't live on the planets themselves, but you can extract resources out of those planets to build things to live in space. So why would you want to live in space? Well, you would want to live in space because you don't have to just live in space, but there's other planets that could be colonized through geoengineering. So I think space colonization is the answer to war. Because let's say you're going to colonize space, you're going to need help. You're going to need the help of the Russians. You're going to need the help of the Chinese. You're going to need the help of the Indians. You're going to need the help of all of these other populations that you can use to help you get out into space and get off of just being stuck here on the Earth, like we're all stuck in this little box with a bunch of psychopaths. Well, instead, we can be out into space and exploring space where there's just a tremendous amount of freedom to spread around into space, right? And that would reduce the harmful impact of human beings on the planet. We could help restore the environment here on the Earth um, through space exploration and colonization, and developing the means to geoengineer dead planets into live planets, and then use that technology here in the United States or here on Earth to actually help the Earth again. So there's a lot of benefits to space exploration. It's not a waste of money. What's a waste of money is spending trillions of dollars to build bombs to go around exterminating everybody and then living in a giant hellhole run by a cabal of sinister, um, deranged child abusers, which is what runs Washington D.C. currently. Now, it's actually I normally don't watch like Joe Scarborough and The View and all this kind of stuff, but over the last couple of days, I've tuned in just to hear them cry, and that's been quite nice. It's just tuning in to hear them crying and wailing, and these are the most horrible people. I don't understand. I'm watching like Joy Reid right on this show with MSNBC, and you imagine you've got this studio. Who would even broadcast something like that? You've got this studio, right? Because this tells you who runs America and who the CIA backs. I mean, we've got this organization called the CIA, right? And you look at who their mouthpieces are, who their channels are. It's MSNBC, it's CNN, it's also Fox News when it comes to the wars and stuff. But you look at the cultural agenda, because Fox News pushes some of the same stuff too, just not as hard and in a conservative way. But you look at the cultural agenda, and that's the CIA. The CIA sets the cultural agenda. So you see it on MSNBC, and you've got mostly it's like you've got these. It's so weird. It's a bunch of white people sitting around talking about how bad white people are, like Joe Scarborough, which is idiotic. And then they're surrounded by black women, like Joy Reid, who's like this bald black woman, and she's just like, yeah, she's so loud, right? She's just yelling and yelling and yelling, and you've got these white people sitting around just calling me like, yeah, 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 that makes a lot of sense. And I'm sitting here thinking, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. How is this even real, right? How is it even real? So how is it real? How is it real? How did we get into this situation where we've got this whole faction of the U.S. government run by the CIA that runs the media? They run the Hollywood studios. They run the New York studios. How do we have this whole faction of the government, which has the power to assassinate our presidents or attempt to, and it has all this power to run all these black operations of terror operations in the United States and overseas? And Joy Reid is their mouthpiece. Like, if you want to like, what are they pushing? It's Joy Reid. What are they pushing? It's Pete Buttigieg and his baby trafficking, right? It's like that's what they like, right? How do we get in the situation? Now, a lot of people blame different groups, right? But one of the groups, I mean, so I looked at it like, because people say, oh, it's obviously the Jews because you got the ADL and they're in charge of a lot of stuff, right, in that area. But then you have the Jesuits. You've got the Jesuits. And a lot of people don't talk about the Jesuits, and they don't even understand the Jesuits. I didn't even really think about the Jesuits until Anthony Fauci and this whole operation came out with the lockdowns. But if you want to know exactly what the ideology of woke ideology is and communist ideology is, communism and the wokeism and the LGBT and the BLM and the Antifa, if you want to know like where does that ideological what are the ideological roots of Antifa and BLM and communism and Marxism? What are the ideological roots? It's the Jesuit order. The Jesuit order are the ideological roots of all of the garbage that has polluted and destroyed the United States and Europe. Now, so I'm saying it's the Jesuit ideology. And so a lot of different races and people have taken on that ideology. Some blacks have taken on the ideology. Some white people have taken on the ideology, and Jewish people have taken on this Jesuit ideology because it's non-denominational, right? Jesuitism is actually non-denominational, so you can promote and distribute and disseminate Jesuit ideology in the form of communism and LGBTism and trafficking little babies to homosexuals like Pete Buttigieg and Dave Rubin. Like, this is all Jesuit ideology. Because if you say, well, it's the Jews doing it all, there are a lot of Jews in charge of that. But if you look at let's say the doctrinal teachings, well, this is coming from the Jesuits. It's the Jesuit ideology is the foundation of the communist, Marxist, Leninist, Trotskyite, LGBT. Now, Stalin wasn't an LGBT Trotskyite, any of this, right? I guess he was a Marxist, but he was more of a Stalin was a Stalinist. So I don't have this big argument with communists because I'm not one. But I'm just saying, if you want to understand, like, why is a black woman on MSNBC, a bald black woman, yelling every day on MSNBC? This is the Jesuit philosophy. I was watching, and so I'm watching MSNBC, and you've got these other guys. It's another one of them. That was the Joy Reid thing. Then there was this other guy. He's like a Jewish guy. I don't know what his name is, but they're going on, and then he's got like a homosexual Mexican guy or Hispanic homosexual guy, and they're talking about how, their usual stuff, right? About how America is evil and half the country's Nazi and whatever. This is the Jesuit philosophy. This is the philosophy of Georgetown University and all the Jesuit schools. And the reason it's so weird, right? The reason it's so weird is because they took Christianity and they tried to turn it into a secular ideology without ever understanding Christianity, right? So the Jesuit order of the Catholic Church took the teachings, their misinterpreted and misunderstood teachings of Christ, who was not a man but is the Logos, and they don't know what that means. Maybe some of them do. I don't know. I've never met anyone who can tell me what it means. I know what it means because I've read the fragments of Heraclitus, and he's the one that invented the word, right? Freemasons don't know what it is. I just had a big argument with a Freemason. Freemasons don't know what it is. Jesuits don't know what it is. A lot of Christians don't know what it is. Maybe there are some that do. I don't know. I know some Christians use the word logos, like E. Michael Jones. He's Catholic. He uses the word logos. Does he understand what that means? I don't know. Maybe he does. Maybe he does, and he's keeping it a secret. That's the other weird thing, is that once you get into some of these religions, you have to keep the secret of what it really means. Or maybe they don't know. I don't know. I know what it means because I've read the fragments of Heraclitus. But anyway, the Jesuits took their poor understanding of Christianity and tried to secularize it. And when they secularized it, they invented communism as we know it. Now, communism did exist among the Greeks, like some of the Greek philosophers had this kind of type of communism. And so when you read some of the old books, right, whether there's passages maybe in the Gospels or in Greek philosophy about sharing the wealth. These are philosophers. This is not an economic system, right? These are guys that didn't have jobs. And that's why you have to ask anyone who's an actual communist, like, what did Marx do for work? Right? You can't be the leader of the workers if you can't hold a job, right? And being working at a newspaper, and just writing your pablum. What does that word even mean? It's like garbage, pablum. I don't know what it means. It's like baby talk, like garbage, like trash literature. Like, that's not really a job. You can't run a civilization off of newspapermen. It takes people out there digging trenches, putting in pipings and electrical systems and construction and mining and building equipment and machinery. It's like that's what built. Now Karl Marx didn't do any of those things. So how is he? And he wasn't involved in finance other than he worked for other than the central bankers that he was a front for wanted to set up a central banking system. So of course that's part of Marxism, is having a central bank. But anyway, ask any communist, what did Karl Marx do for work? What did Trotsky do for work? They worked at a newspaper. They didn't do anything else. Like Karl Marx went to a Jesuit school, and he went to a Jesuit school. And I think he was like, okay, so he went to a Jesuit school. He was Jewish, okay, but he went to a Jesuit school, and he was with a bunch of other Jesuit students, who then became revolutionaries to overthrow the king of Prussia in the 1848 revolt, backed by the United States of America, because they had already established a Jesuit base in DC, right? So he never had a job. His job was to incite revolts. You can't run a civilization that way. Now, so what I was saying is, if you look back into Christianity, you'll see like PBS and other Marxist communist organizations will try and take things from the Bible and say, see, they were communists. Jesus was a communist. Jesus was not a communist. But so what I'm saying is, philosophers or Stoics who didn't have jobs tended to have this kind of thing where they would go and share their resources because they didn't work for a living. People that work for a living don't want to live in communism. Now, some of the workers in the Soviets picked up this idea, thinking very, very foolishly that if they overthrew the monarchy and set up a dictatorship of the worker, that this was all going to be great. It wasn't great. I think that it wasn't great because, for a lot of reasons. We don't have to go into them all, but essentially no worker really wants to share the fruits of his labor with everybody, right? Particularly people that don't work or can't work. Now, the Soviet communism was probably not exactly that, but whatever it was kind of like none of these things were pure anyway. So I'm saying if there was some good elements to the Soviet system, so be it. I don't think it was all 100% bad, but it wasn't all 100% bad because despite Karl Marx, they instituted things that were based on natural law. You can't have an economic system that exists outside of natural law. You have to have meritocracy. And so this is what I'm actually getting to, which is what I'm optimistic about for America right now, is that we have a chance with Donald Trump as the president to establish a meritocracy and get away from this whole thing of this idea that we're all going to be under this kind of Jesuit type of equality system of Karl Marx and bringing in what they like to call vulnerable populations to use against the rest of us, to bully us and degrade the society. It's just crazy that we've even gotten to this point. Now on Twitter, it's interesting because I was looking at who voted for who, right? And if you look at what Donald Trump's plan is for America, it's a golden age, it's cheap oil, right? Cheap fuel, which we need, cheap energy. It's space exploration. It's getting people to work, building things, constructing things, having a fiery economy, saving the US dollar. Because look, I was so ready, like America, as far as I was concerned, America was finished. And it really was. That's what BRICS is. BRICS means no more America, right? Brazil, Russia, India, China means no more America, and South Africa, no more America, right? Everything was moving towards no more America. And for some reason, the people in Washington, D.C. thought they were going to just, I don't even know what they thought. These people aren't very smart, to be honest with you. They were smart enough to get in control, but it's almost like they used this because they manipulated their way into control by allowing themselves to kind of parasitically attach themselves to people like you and me that work for a living and that are intelligent, and not just you and me, but there's so many people in America that really are smart and really are productive and really know how to do things and really know how to make things. And so you've got this group that's really, I really see it emanating out of the culture of the Jesuit order that came in and just attached itself like a parasite to the American body politic. And a lot of these people, there's various racial groups in it. The reason why groups like the Anti-Defamation are so prominent is because they've been prominent with this Roman Jesuit system since the 1700s or the 1600s. So they've been part of the political class, the aristocracy of that new aristocracy that grew out of republicanism of the Jesuit order. They've been part of that since its inception. So that's why they have so much power and influence within it. So where do we need to go from here? Space exploration. Because space exploration means the end of the war. Like, hey, guess what? Instead of building all these rockets, which are really powerful and amazing and fast, to just nuke everything and destroy the Earth and kill everybody, you've got these big, huge populations, right? What are you going to do with them? Well, if we just keep replicating the populations on the Earth, it's like we run out of space, right? So space exploration is the key to getting all these other governments, and we can do it already, getting all these other governments to, instead of building weapons of war, build rockets and systems of colonization of space. So you put all these governments under the leadership of America into space exploration. And colonizing Mars should be the absolute goal. Colonizing the moon and colonizing Mars. Using the moon as a forward operations base for colonizing space and colonizing Mars. Absolutely can be done. Absolutely can be done. And should be done. If it's not done, then we're just going to be stuck here with a bunch of psychopaths forever. So yeah. What else? I don't know. Oh, the economy. I was so, you look at what happened. Well, I can't talk. I don't want to talk about the markets, but yeah, I don't want to talk about the markets. I don't want to talk about that. But I'll just say this. I was so ready to see America end. Like over the last 4 years, I was totally betting against America. 100%. Now I've totally reversed course. I have completely reversed course. Now I'm betting on the US dollar. I was completely betting against the US dollar for the last 4 years. And now I'm betting on the US dollar. Why? You're like, well, we're $30 trillion in debt and or more, whatever. It could be 100 trillion. Who knows, right? We're in debt and they're going to raise interest rates. And see, none of that matters. None of that matters. and then the whole BRICS thing with literally with Donald Trump leading America, BRICS could frankly just become finished and irrelevant, and nobody's going to care about it anymore, and the dollar will be supreme again. See, if if we restore dollar supremacy, and why would we do that? Because number one, people actually want to do business with us. The reason they weren't doing business with us, or they were like, hey, let's just get out of it. America's weird. Like America for the last not just 4 years, but many years, but for the last 4 years under Biden and Kamala Harris, it's like you look at America. Let's say you're the leader of China or the leader of Russia, or the leader of some other country. You look at America like here's a schizophrenic weirdo who's a genocidal maniac. Like that's what America looks like to the rest of the world. It's like, it'd be nice if we could do business with them, but they're just so weird and dangerous and psychopathic and suicidal that we're going to have to end this, dissolve this relationship and do something else. Well, guess what? That's not what they're thinking now. They're thinking, oh, okay, I guess America's not a weird, psychopathic, genocidal, schizophrenic weirdo anymore. And maybe we can do business with them. See, that's the way the rest of the world now is going to look at America. That's the way the rest of the world's going to look at America. Like, oh, they're not schizophrenic anymore. Oh, they're not genocidal maniacs anymore. Maybe we can do business. So what Donald Trump needs to do, and what I believe he will do, is that he's going to like, hey, what he should do, and I think what he will do. Hey, instead of having all these wars, let's give it a rest. Let's just chill on the wars for now, and let's do business, right? And that's going to solve a lot of problems. Let's chill out on the wars. Let's come to some agreements, and let's start doing business again. And the people who run the global genocide program, the reason they don't like that, and the reason they'd rather have the wars and rather have the weapons and rather have the mass murder and the extermination programs, is because they're looking at the population. They're saying there's too many people. There's too many people. What are we going to do? Well, that's why the answer is to colonize space. So the other answer that the genocidal maniacs who run the Rockefeller Foundation and the Rothschild Group and these other philanthropic organizations, which are dedicated to, quote, ending poverty, Bill Gates Foundation, how are they going to end poverty? Well, you got to understand, when they say end poverty, right? When Bill Gates says he wants to end poverty, and the Rockefellers say they want to end poverty, and these other groups connected to the UN say they want to end poverty, what they mean is they want to kill off the poor people, and they want to make more people poor and then kill them off. That's what end poverty actually means. And so if there's no other solution, then it's almost like, what else do we do with this? We can't, like this is, people are being born in these huge numbers, and it's just causing all this pollution, and and they live these degraded lives, and right. So the solution that the people that rule over us have come up with over the last 100 years, particularly since the establishment of the Federal Reserve Bank, because that's the people who established it. It's a private it's a private and government cooperative, right? So you have big banks cooperating with the government to run the currency. And those big banks that are cooperating with the government, they're the ones that came up with the plan of global genocide. That's why they're the ones promoting Antifa, BLM, LGBT. LGBT transhumanism has been the goal of the Federal Reserve bankers since its inception. And they even backed certain types of pastors to promote it very stealthily. Now they do it out in the open. Now they've got churches with their rainbow BLM flags, right? That is, and who are these people? Who are these people that are running the churches that have rainbow flags? Well, those churches are all run and organized under an ecclesiastical, what's it called? An ecumenical system of the Pope. the Jesuit order, with the banking cartels of the Rothschild, what people tend to call the Jewish banking cartels, working with the Jesuit order to impose a certain religious system, which is a rainbow flag and Black Lives Matter rallies. But all that's hopefully going to go away. Hopefully going to go away and replaced with a golden age, a golden age, a golden age, a new American golden age that will hopefully last for well into the future, way beyond Trump. Trump is like, oh, he's not just another guy. He's actually some kind of a figure that will be looked back in history as like legendary as far as what he's accomplished. You know, beyond George Washington. Not yet. We'll see how he does, but it's almost going to be legendary if he pulls this off, and if he sets this new direction for America. Because look, what Elon Musk is doing is so important with colonizing Mars. It's like, if we're just going to be stuck on the Earth forever, this place is, like if it's going to keep going on like this. Here's what I'm saying is, when you have this much advanced technology and you're trapped on a planet like this, it just becomes a prison where you're totally surveilled. You're run by a gang of psychopathic it's literally for some reason, the whole high-tech thing and this whole like everybody's like stuck in these, well, like when you see these things they put over their heads and it's like they're like hallucinating electronics. There's something just weird about this whole transhumanism thing. It's all wrapped up with a deviation from natural procreation. So natural sexual procreation goes away, and it becomes this thing that from when you are a child, you are indoctrinated through this electronic weirdo system, this AI, electronic, LGBT system, into being a degenerate pervert from the time you were born. That is what the objective. That's why I was so completely ready to just say America's finished, because it was absolutely heading into that direction where it's like, and it wasn't just America, it was every part of this network, America, Canada, Australia, the European Union, the UK, they were all pushing the exact same thing. And a sodomite despotism, a despotism of high-tech sodomite despots, right? A tyranny of perversion. That hopefully is going to go away. And instead, we're going to replace that with production, space exploration. That's what we need to do. Space exploration. Otherwise, it's just genocide, war, poisoning the food. I mean, look how poisoned our food is. That's why it's exciting that Robert F. Kennedy's a part of this. Look at how poisoned your food is. You're going to the grocery store and eating food every day that's loaded with poison. I mean, look at like the cereal aisle that they give children. It's not even food. It's like, it's totally depleted of any nutrients, and it's just sugar. That's why you walk around and all these people are fat and sick and ugly. Like literally, America became this country of fat, sick, and ugly people, and it's like widespread. It's just so weird. So we need to get, and then we look at our farms across America, in California, and all across America. They're like owned by the Chinese Communist Party. I was just looking at Thomas Massie on Twitter, and he created this like thing. He's got these chickens in a coop, right? But the coop, but they're in the grass, so it's just sitting on his grass. Like he's got this beautiful house and this beautiful grass out there, and he's got a bunch of chickens in a coop without a floor in it. So the coop is just sitting on the grass, right? and the chickens go in there and they go along and they dig in the grass and eat the worms and stuff. And he gives them food. He brings out grains and stuff or whatever to keep and water and stuff. But they're all contained in this thing so that animals can't come and kill them, right? And he can raise his chickens out there on the grass. So they're living on the grass in a coop. And so once they've kind of used up that grassy area, he's got a tractor system that pulls them. So they just get pulled along his property, and it just goes along the property and they get fresh grass to keep eating on. Like this is a way to grow chickens, right? And you get really, I don't know if you've ever eaten chicken eggs that are from chickens that eat like this. They are delicious and they are so good compared to the crap that you get in the store. It's like the stuff you're getting in the store is so depleted of nutrients compared to what we could have. Why? Because they're made in these big factory Chinese Bill Gates farms. They're inhumane. The food isn't as good. It's not as nutritious. If you look at how they grow the food, most of the food that we eat, even if you're eating something that's like a whole food, like a potato or a carrot or whatever, or a grain, they're saturated in poison, right? The food has been saturated in poison before it even arrives at the store because they're poisoning the soil that the food grows in. And if you're eating a root vegetable and it's soaking in poison to keep the bugs off of it, now you're eating poison. You're eating poisoned food. So no wonder the population is not as healthy and strong and as vibrant as it could be. But we can change all that. We have an opportunity to. We have an opportunity to change it. So things are finally looking good. Things are finally going to calm down. So what my prediction is this. My prediction is this. The world is going to calm way down. The wars are going to calm down. Doesn't mean there won't be any battles, but it's just going to calm way the hell down, right? And we need to move away from just war and trying to kill everybody with advanced weapon systems because it's getting super crazy with these drones, right? They've got these like the Russians have drones and the Chinese have drones and the Iranians have drones and we have drones, and you think you're going to go out on a battlefield with an AK-47 or an AR-15 and you've got this drone thing that just like buzzes around and sits outside your house and waits for you. And just like, it could, eventually they'll just land on your roof like a little bird and just sit there quietly. And then you walk out and it goes, bam, and smacks you and kills you. Like, that's not much of a future, right? So we've got to move away from the hostilities towards peace. And a real lasting peace will require a cooperation by the world's largest, most powerful governments, not just as a world government ruling over the people of the earth. We don't need that. But in projecting power out into space and colonizing space. We've got billions and billions of people. We've got like, I don't know how many billion people on this planet that need something to do. They need stuff to do. They need a job to do with a real purpose. And that purpose should be space exploration. There really isn't anything else to do. Well, there is on the planet. So there's two most important things to do as far as work. One would be space exploration as a solution to world peace. The other would be maintaining the environment of the planet by cleaning up the oceans and cleaning up the land and caring for the forest systems and waterways and you know what I mean, while also extracting resources and building communities and systems of civilization which have not such a damaging impact on the environment, but like super clean, high tech, like use the technology rather than using the technology to build like a high tech prison system run by despots and perverts. Use it to build cities and environments and civilizations that are super clean and super efficient and comfortable and fun, right? Have it. Why can't life be fun and interesting, right? It should be. So we have the technology to do that. Now, in order to do that, you have to have high quality people ruling. You have to have high quality people in control. And so that also takes excluding certain types of people from government, from the centers of power, and excluding people like the people you see on MSNBC, the people like you see on CNN. They need to be excluded from any positions of power, excluding people like Pete Buttigieg that buys black babies to take home to a homosexual lover, pretend like it's like that is so weird, excluding any kind of hardcore sex perverts from being like we don't want to be ruled over by sex perverts or it has to be a meritocracy of high quality moral ethical people. And where do I get my morality from? Theos, the source of the universe, right? That's the morality. That's the source of morality. Theos, the creator of the universe, is the source of morality. And Theos is known by the logos, which is reason rooted in truth, the governing principle of the universe, the creator of the universe, and the truth, which is the source of reason. So yeah, things are looking good. Things are finally going to calm down. We can all get back to work. We can all get back to production. We can get back to building a civilization that's worth living in. We have to, though, we really must get rid of this embedded system of the Jesuits who embedded the system, who founded DC. It was the Jesuits who founded DC. It was the Jesuits who merged with the Freemasons to use it to overthrow the kings. Because what happened was the Freemason system, however it started, I mean, I guess it really goes back to the Knights Templar. They set up an order that was kind of outside of the Catholic Church, right? And whatever it was, I don't, whatever. But it became popular with the aristocracies of Europe. So it was part of the aristocracies of Europe, this Freemason system. And then it got merged with the Jesuits. The Jesuits grabbed the Masonic lodges as the Illuminati, took over the Masonic lodges and used it to overthrow the aristocracies and establish a new aristocracy. That's why all the aristocrats, not all of them, but a lot of the aristocrats went from being members of the monarchies and the aristocrats in the of the monarchies, supporters of the monarchies, to republicanism. And then they used their positions to overthrow the monarchies. This was all done through the Jesuit order and Freemasonry. But Freemasons or communists, like those are just little groups that the Jesuits used. Like we'll use the Freemasons. That was like one of the main ones. They merged with the Freemasons, took it over, used it to overthrow the aristocracy. But not everyone's a Freemason. But hey, there's a lot of these communists out there. Like they developed communism. It was the Jesuits that developed communism with Karl Marx and the 1848ers out of the school in Germany, the Jesuit school in Germany. Well, we'll develop a philosophy out of the Jesuit order. They developed a philosophy. That philosophy was all about taking the teachings of the Bible and making it into a secular philosophy. So they tried to misinterpret the Bible and say, well, we'll take all these things that are about Christ. I don't even know how they did this because, frankly, You can't even really turn Christianity into a secular philosophy. You can use Christian philosophy in secular society to upgrade it, but they didn't do that. They didn't upgrade it. They downgraded it. It's complicated. I don't even know if I could explain it in the short time of this video, but basically they took principles, which are spiritual principles, and made them into communism. It's one way of looking at it. Humanism, communism. So they divorced it from God and made it about humanism. It's really weird how they did that. So anyway, all of that needs to be uprooted. It's been the source of the decline of Western civilization. The Jesuit system has been the source of the decline of Western civilization. It's given us communism. It's given us LGBTism. It's given us BLMism. It's given us the war, and so it's like this whole war. Like when you watch television, the CIA channels, and they're like, white people are bad. We don't need any more white people. This is the Jesuit order run by the Pope. This is how they think. It's very weird. They're like, we don't need white people unless they're gay, and they should be adopting kids. Like I'm driving around in my truck and I'm listening to commercials that are coming over the radio, right? And it's commercials about about adopting kids, right? And it's some kind of organization. It's like a 501c3 that's funded by the U.S. government, right? They get some kind of grants, and it's a 501c, and so it's got the voice. You can tell the voice is that they use in the commercials. It's like the voice of a black man, but he sounds homosexual, right? And it's about adopting teens, right? And I'm like, this is what I'm talking about. This is not just this is some kind of strange thing that comes out of these high-tech prison despot societies that we've been living under. For some reason, this transhumanist movement revolves around pedophiles and men who want to be around teens, or like let me give you an example. Elon Musk tweeted about when that Pizzagate thing happened. Elon Musk tweeted that the hammer of justice is coming, and he tweeted a picture of a news report about how one of the friends of the Podestas, who said that Pizzagate was all fake and it was all lies. Well, he was arrested for being whatever with babies and toddlers. Listen, I'm talking about babies, toddlers, right? Elon Musk tweeted this just yesterday or the day before. For some reason, this whole weird cult that runs MSNBC and the Washington Post and the US government and the CIA, like this is what we've been fighting. This is what Antifa has been fighting for. This is what BLM has been fighting for. This is what the Pope and his Jesuits have been fighting for. So this whole thing has been emanating from the Jesuit order and the ADL. Let's not forget the Anti-Defamation League. This is what they've been fighting for, right? You look at the Pizzagate thing. I remember when the Pizzagate thing happened. This was right after Trump came in. I remember you had James Alefantis he was like all over the media. He was on all the conservative talk stations. Every single one of them had him on, his point of view. Like he literally was just given the floor. They just rolled out the red carpet for him. It was so weird. I don't know what's up with that guy. I just know that that whole thing was so weird. Anyway, so Elon Musk tweeted about this, which is important. You have to understand, that's who we've been fighting for. I'm not fighting for. That's who we've been fighting against this whole time. That's what Antifa are like the bioweapons, the street enforcers of the Jesuit, the Judeo-Talmudic. It's like a Talmudic Jesuit system. Antifa are their street enforcers, right? So when you criticize the CIA and you criticize the Jesuit system, they send out their biological weapons called Antifa to kill you. That's what they do. Are they going to be able to do that again? They might be able to try. I think it's going to be more difficult this time, though. I think it's going to be much more difficult this time because through all of what's happened, people are now see more clearly how the lines are divided. Without knowing everything, they can see more clearly how the lines are divided. It's going to be more difficult to, not impossible, but it'll be more difficult for them to develop a resistance. But you got to know who's behind the resistance, who's behind the Antifa BLM resistance. It's a cult of Jesuit pedophiles. It's a cult of Jesuit pedophiles. I was actually just discussing this with a Catholic guy, and I respect. See, when it comes to the Roman Catholic religion, I don't have a problem with that. Like if you're worshiping Jesus Christ as a Catholic according to your tradition, that does not bother me at all. I actually like it. I like that better than what I see in the Protestant churches. I would rather go to a traditional Latin Catholic ceremony or like, what do you call it, mass, then I would want to go listen to some weird pastor at some weird neo Christian, which isn't even Christian. It's just some weird CIA, Mossad, ADL church, right? I'd rather go to the Roman one, but I'd rather just go to any Orthodox one, Roman or not. Like I'd rather go to a Greek Orthodox or an Eastern Orthodox one because I think that's even more authentic. But what I'm saying is the Jesuits are not that. The Jesuits are like their own, it's a whole new philosophy. It's a whole new philosophy. But anyway, I was having an argument with a guy who was Catholic, and he found what I was saying to be very, he was insulted by it. He was going on about the Jews being, the problem of everything. And so I can see that there are Jews, the Jewish Mafia, the Anti-Defamation League, right? And their whole Zionist organizations, all their different networks in the World Jewish Congress and the Zionist Organization of America, and all the liberal left-wing Jewish groups that they're really just like a network that all works against, frankly, the interests of America. I mean, just look at how they voted. Yes, Trump got a good significant number of Jewish people who voted for him, but most of them voted against him, which means they voted against America, frankly. They voted against the interest of, like, for some reason, they really don't like us. They don't want us to be prosperous. For some reason, I don't know. They don't want a white man in charge of America anymore. They want it to be a black woman because she's a woman and she's black and she's not white. They don't like whites. It's really like they're the ones that came up with all this stuff. But what I'm saying is the philosophy that they've bought into is the Jesuit system. So I'm saying that those Jews have bought into the Jesuit system. They're promoting it, they're forwarding it, they're perpetuating it. That's what I'm saying. But yeah, so for some reason, this Jesuit system, which a lot of Jews support for some reason, the Anti-Defamation League, that whole Anti-Defamation League thing, and communism. There's a lot of Jews in communism. They were the leadership of the communists pretty much everywhere in Germany and in Russia and all that. They're like, that's the Jesuit system. It's a syndicate of. But okay, so I remember what I was saying. So I was trying to tell this guy, right? So I was trying to tell this guy, he's a Catholic guy, and I was trying to tell him, look, I wasn't really speaking against the Catholics or the Catholic tradition, the tradition. I was speaking against the Jesuits, and I was telling them, look, the Jesuits and have been doing this and that. And I was like, look at, I've got this image of, I've got this picture saved on my computer. It's Mother Teresa, and she's with Robert Maxwell, the father of Ghislaine Maxwell. So here you've got a picture of Mother Teresa sitting in looks like a hotel room or somewhere, maybe someone's house, with Robert Maxwell, and he's on the phone, and then they take pictures together. Okay, well, let's just think about this. What does Mother Teresa do? She works for the Catholic Church, and she goes around the world where there's all these orphans, there's all these vulnerable children who don't have parents and are poor. And who's she taking pictures with? Robert Maxwell. What does Robert Maxwell do? Who is Robert Maxwell? Well, he is works for the CIA and Mossad and British intelligence, and he clearly is involved in trafficking children and using them in blackmail operations. So, you can say, oh, it's the Jews because he's Jewish, but it's also Mother Teresa, and she's part of a group connected to the Pope. And it's not just Pope Francis. They've been doing this for how many generations, I don't know. But for some reason, this is part of what they're doing. And it's weird, right? It's just weird. And that's why when you go back and you look at, when you look at the lockdowns was Jewish mafia, banking cartels, and the Jesuit order. And who were their enforcers? BLM, Antifa, LGBT groups. Those are the enforcers of the banking and drug business, the pharmaceutical, Pfizer. For some reason, they're all into homosexuality, transhumanism, LGBT, and really interested in adults, gay, homosexual adult men adopting teens. Why do I say that? Because I drive around in my truck while I'm working and I hear these commercials come on, and it's some man who sounds like a black man talking about adopting teens USA, and it's like, and he sound, when you hear him talk, it's just a black guy, right, with kind of a gay persona. So why is the U.S. government promoting gay black men to adopt teens? Why? Because this is the Jesuit system. This is what they like. They like this. When you drive around and you see people injecting, drugs into their veins on the streets, and they're passing out they're just like distributing all the needles, and you're like, who's backing this? It ultimately is the Jesuits. This is their ideology. Why? You think, why? That's crazy. I don't know why. Because this is what they like. They think that this is how I think ultimately comes down to, this is their morality, and they think that this is what is the right thing to do, is to have homosexual men adopting kids and have the government promoting that, and having the government distributing needles to the drug addicts, and having taking all the populations of the earth and having them come to America and giving them housing. I don't know, like, that's what they think is good. That's what they think is good. And when they see white people that are like Donald Trump, right? He's white, he's got blonde hair, he's kind of orange. When they see Elon Musk, space rockets, they look at that and they say, we don't need that, because that's not helping the vulnerable. We need to get more gay black men adopting kids. So we're gonna have a whole section of the government that has that uses taxpayer money to promote that and arrange it and have it's, for some reason, that's it. Now, the other thing that's weird is that the way they've got your life figured out for you from the time you're born is, let's say you're born, right? So you're born in America, and as you come out of the womb, if you're lucky enough to have a mom and a dad, once you come out of the womb, the first thing they do is they start injecting you with vaccines, which I think is great, because I'm on YouTube, and you have to say that on YouTube. You have to say that you support that. Otherwise, your content's removed, because that's what the World Health Organization wants. Now, let's hope that when Donald Trump was the president last time, he did take some moves against the World Health Organization, which were really good. But so let's say you come out of the womb, you're lucky enough to have a mom and a dad. God, you're really lucky. But even then, you probably get hit with all these drugs right out of the womb. Boom, boom, boom. And who knows what the long-term effects of this are? I mean, I'm looking at the society. I'm seeing the long-term effects. It's not good. But so then after you do that, so then you're 5 years. So you make it 5 years into your life. And what do? You're sent to the concentration camp, the public school. It's a concentration camp. So at 5, rather than spending your childhood with your mother, she's got to go to work. She may even have to go to work a couple weeks. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. A couple weeks into your baby life as a baby, your mother, she gets maybe a couple weeks off, then she goes back to work. Where do you go? Oh, you got to go with strangers. Hopefully you have a family member to stay with. Who knows, right? If you're not with strangers, well, by the time you're 5, oh, good. Now you're old enough to go to the concentration camp so that I can work and not have to pay somebody to watch you, right? Because mom has to go to work. She's got to go work for Pfizer. She's got to go work for some stupid corporation where she barely makes enough to support the mortgage, which is way astronomical, right? And the car payment and the insurance and everything else. And then so you're 5 years old. Now you're in the concentration camp. And you go there and you're dropped off. And what are you going to learn about? Well, you're basically indoctrinated now by a bunch of weirdos who are part of a private 501c3 organization called the Teachers Union, and they believe in LGBT, BLM, and turning you into a transhumanist. And of course, while you're there, if you are there and you're not feeling well, and you don't like it there, and you don't want to pay attention, well, there's obviously something wrong with you, the adults are going to say, and they're going to try and hook you on drugs. So now you're 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. Now you're being hooked on drugs. You're being hooked on powerful drugs made by Pfizer, made by Johnson & Johnson, made by corporations over in Switzerland and different places. Same companies that produced LSD. Now they're producing drugs for you because you're not paying attention at 6, 7, 8 years old and following instructions by a bunch of weirdos, bunch of perverts that run the schools. So this is kind of, you wonder how America got so bad and so bad off. Well, this is called childhood in America. This is called childhood. The best thing you could hope for is to be born somewhere where you live in the woods, far away from civilization, where you have a chance to grow up without being around these people, right? So we need a better future for humanity than this. Because let's say, so now you're 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If you're lucky not to have been drugged by them by then, once you hit puberty, now they're going to hit you hard with, hey, you should become a pervert, right? That's what they do now in the schools. Once you hit puberty, they're like, you should be a pervert. You should be a pervert. Here's all these perverted things you can do, right? Now, the more perverted you are, the less you're going to reproduce, which is a big part of the reason why they promote this stuff. For women, they're like, yeah, don't have any babies yet because you don't want to have a baby. You want to go to college. You want to go to university. You want to have a career. You don't want to be stuck with a baby, do you? Right? And the men, they're like, hey, look, you don't even have a job. How can you have a baby when you don't even have a job? And you're not going to be able to get a good job unless you go to university. You have to go to college. So, you got to wait. You got to put this off until you're in your 30s or 40s. All ways of just keeping you from having a life. And there's a lot of mind games and trickery. They're trying to trick you. They're trying to like string you along. And like, oh, you can't just do that. You can't have a family now. You got to go finish school. Then you got to find a job. Then you got to do this. Then you got by the time this, the woman's like in her 40s now, and she's like ready to have a baby, right? I've got my career now. I'm ready to have a baby. It's like, no, it doesn't work. That's why the civilization is collapsing, and that's why instead of having a culture, right? Because if they're not aborting you, they're trying to convince women and men not to even start families, and then they're flooding you with all these people that have families that are producing a lot of children across the world, and then they're sending them into your country to replace you. And the goal is there won't be an America and there won't be a Europe. So the answer, as I've said, I'm going to end the stream, but the answer of what I've said is space exploration, lots of production, a new American golden age where we have a real meritocracy and we just do away with this whole Jesuit system that we have to confront the Jesuits that came and founded DC because they're the ones that planned this whole transhuman weirdo system from the beginning. We have to confront them and replace it with what most Americans in the colonies thought they were getting, which was a meritocracy of their own people to have a place where they could create a new civilization, where they could create something for their progeny that would last for a very long time. And we have that opportunity now with Donald Trump, and so we should make the most of it. See you later.